Guru Nation, it's the Dan and Dan show. How's it going? Dan Sfera, Dan Shell. Dan Shell, someone that came on my radar recently with Clinical Leader, and I'm very familiar with the Clinical Leader brand. I didn't realize it was a part of Life Science Leader, which you can see behind Dan's wall, all the different platforms they have and brands, but you're strictly Clinical Leader, right?
Yeah, yeah. The bigger umbrella is Life Science Connect. Life Science Leader was the last magazine that we produced. We stopped producing it in December. Now it's just online. But we have all these other ones that you see around me, and I just handled the Clinical Leader site. Took over for our friend Ed Mesita back in November.
Rest in peace,
Yeah,
Ed. Talked to him a few times. He knew of me, I knew of him, and we collaborated a few times. Never got to know him well.
yeah,
One of my regrets. I respected him from afar as far as what he did. He was one of the inspirations for starting my video
yeah.
stuff. Is really it was Clinical Leader. Like how can I do this on video?
Right,
This was
right.
before podcasts. I was like, let me do a YouTube channel on this stuff. So rest in peace, Ed, man. He really left a legacy behind him.
He
And
did, and that was one of the reasons I took this job because I've been here 24 years and Ed and I worked together, for 20 plus years together. He ran clinical leader for, I would say, probably 11, 12 years. And I was handling life science leader. And I didn't want his legacy just to go to some random person. So
mm,
um, obviously, life science leader covers the whole continuum, which includes clinical trials. So it wasn't like I was unfamiliar with it, but these past 3 months have been, I'll tell you what, difficult learning all the acronyms. Thankfully, I get to listen to podcasts like yours where I learn a heck of a lot, but I'm still learning. Yeah.
we
So,
need a magazine just for acronyms.
yeah, absolutely.
We should
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
call it that,
Yes.
acronyms.
Yeah. That's right.
That'd actually do well. Dan, we both off of the SOS weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for dealing with the travel, hectic travel. It was not the easiest destination to get to, and you were still the first one at the conference. So thank you for that. Thank you for writing that piece on us.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, it was a very nice piece. I enjoyed reading it. Um, what were your thoughts on the SOS?
Yeah, it's weird because I've only been in this industry 3 months, but conferences aren't anything that are new to me. I mean, I've traveled for years as a chief editor. And so a conference of this size definitely gave you that whole community feel. And you couldn't avoid that with the amount of people, obviously. But like I said in my piece, I mean, there was definitely this tribe, feeling, a vibe people have described it as. And that was refreshing. There was, and I knew this going in. Everybody knew this going in if they listened to you and Dr. Fox and Brad, that there was not going to be any of these talking heads on stage giving you their sales pitch. So we knew that this was going to be something different. What it ended up being was extremely interactive, and that was refreshing.
Yeah, and same feedback we're getting. Uh, The bar is now raised higher. A lot of people are telling me and each other, and I'm thrilled to see that. And honestly, like having conferences with talking heads and the same talking heads recycled over and over, I don't know how people continue to do that. I mean, that's a testament to how secretive this industry is, to where you don't even go for those. Like, that's just like the container. That's not why you go. You
Yeah.
go for the meetings, biz dev,
Right.
within the container of a talking head on stage selling something. And I always thought, like, why not do both? Like, you can do both. You can have it interesting, fresh, and still have foster that kind of sense of community, and you don't have to break people's wallets for it either. Like bring
Sure.
the people that actually do the work, not just
Yeah.
the talking heads that all they do is travel to conferences. Like that's their job. What about the coordinators that are drawing blood and entering data? What about the CRAs monitoring? And so that's really was the goal, and I think it can be done. I'm actually really excited because I'm not that excited about conferences, but now we have one that I could be excited about going to.
Sure. Well, I mean, you're lucky at this stage. Obviously, you are in the honeymoon stage. I mean, it's the first one. It's a smaller one. You get to some of these big shows, and then there's that intimidation factor also from an attendee standpoint of I'm in a room with 300 people. I don't know if I want to raise my hand. I don't know if I want to approach the presenters after the event. And that was one of the things I liked about yours was, you got done with a main panel and then there were these breakout sessions that were even smaller. And then you could go in that room and get even more into the details. Again, as this event grows, and I'm sure it will, that aspect will change a little bit, but that was definitely an advantage this year.
Yeah, and I see the challenges ahead. The challenges are not growth. The challenges are keeping the same spirit.
Yeah.
Like you said, what did you title it? A Tribe Called SOS?
Yeah.
The challenge is great title, by the way. The
Thanks.
challenge is keeping this same spirit alive
Yeah.
as you get bigger, because just like a content creator, and you're very familiar with content, this has been your career, it's very easy to see what works and just triple down on it. But at some point, it has a diminishing returns because you become a cartoon character of who you actually are.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen it with my own YouTube. Like I know how to rank a number one out of 10 video over and over and over again. It's all about how you can become a CRA in 3 months.
Yeah.
I can just recycle that and keep getting one out of tens, but what value are you actually giving to the community? Like you're gonna have to have some 10 out of 10 rankings, but long tail, evergreen stuff that
Sure.
is still gonna be relevant 3, 5, 10 years from now as it is today. And same thing with a conference. Like it's easy to say, okay, this works. This person really like
Hmm.
moved the crowd. We got to have him again. But what happens when that starts getting old?
Right.
So that's the challenge. It's not really like for us, I don't see the challenge as growth. I see it as keeping that spirit alive.
Yeah. It is partly what you said, finding those unique personalities to be part of it. I'll use Patrick Stone as the example,
Whew.
uh,
I've known
fantastic.
Pat for 15 years. I knew this guy's a star.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
never gets the chance because he's not traditional. He doesn't
No.
play the politics.
Right, right. And that's how he came across. And, I think people realized that as soon as he started speaking, but then in that breakout session, it was into the nitty gritty, like, hey, we're not the enemy as FDA inspectors, you need to prepare for this type of thing. But if you do this one thing, guess what? Then we've been trained by the FBI. Like we know if you're lying, and
Yeah.
it was just stuff that you don't hear that level, from
The problem is like Pat and people like Pat, like Robert's another one, and we'll
yeah,
probably have
Robert's
them
another one.
back. We'll probably have them back because they're so good and so compelling. But if their messaging, and I'm not saying it's going to be theirs, but someone like them, if their messaging gets stale or they start selling stuff,
Sure.
which is the natural inclination for people want to do, hey, people like me, let me start leveraging my talks into getting outcomes.
Yeah.
I was worried about this kind of stuff, not from those two again, just in theory. At the after party, I talked to just regular like coordinator. I talked to a girl. I'm interviewing her, Haley. She changed my mind on DCT. I think you commented on
I
this.
did.
That was you.
I
She changed my mind,
said,
Dan,
you said something nice about DCTs.
over a couple of old fashions, but I don't think it was the alcohol. She literally, she has nothing to sell. She's not
Yeah.
even the owner of the company. She's an employee.
Right.
And she says, this is what we do. This is all I have been doing. And I started learning from her. I already know she's gonna be on a panel next year.
Yeah.
So the talent is gonna come. And
Yeah.
if we can get this talent first before other platforms and just showcase them, I think we have a sustaining competitive advantage.
You had some people that were, let's say, PIs. Some of them were PIs that
Dr.
stood up
Al,
in the
so my
crowd,
boy, Dr.
you
Al.
know, but the ones that stood up in the crowd,
Oh, yes.
and asked questions, those people could be on panels next year.
Yes.
They brought up really good questions that were engaging and not necessarily engaging. They were thoughtful. Like it made the panelists think, oh yeah, what about that? So there was a lot of talent in that room. And then of course, you interview a ton of people on your podcast. Darshan would be a great one. I mean,
Yeah, we tried
he
to
would
get
be,
him. He couldn't, his schedule didn't work, but
yeah.
he's coming to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, people like that, people like Jess, she's out there. She was great on the panel. I mean,
Yeah, with the
she
wig.
looked better than Brad in the wig for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, that was a fun panel for sure. I think a lot of people remember that one.
Yeah, so I'm excited about what the future holds, especially like getting there's plenty of talent. I've known as a site director, like a lot of my coordinators would be good for panels. A lot of the
Hmm.
CRAs that come in would be great for panels, and they never get the shine, and we're trying to give the spotlight to these people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Elena, she was great on the
Elena.
budgeting panel.
Let's talk about you, man. Like, I'm mad that we didn't have enough time to do a panel, number one, for career seekers, but
Mm,
number two, teaching people how to create content, either for themselves or their business.
yeah.
Like, I'm happy to be on that panel. You are a shoe-in for that panel.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
we Dr.
practical stuff.
Yeah, it is practical stuff. And, it is the one way I'm sort of an outsider in all of this. And I was glad to be a fly on the wall, and I will continue to be for probably the next year in this industry. But from a content creation, you're right. Like, I have some thoughts on that for sure. My colleague, Abby Proch, she's been focused on clinical leader a lot longer than I am. Her job is getting people to contribute articles to our
You
site,
see? This will
so,
already make
uh,
sense for us to do this
yeah.
panel next year.
Right, right. But it's not just, oh yeah, I know how to write, and you write something and send it in and everything's good to go. Like, it has to, pass some quality standards, and it has to meet, some certain thresholds that we want it to be good, not
hmm
only for you, you're putting your name on it, but for our site. So yeah, there are definitely some things we could talk about.
That's what gets me excited about this, man. And it's like as scared as I am that this was our only classic album, and as challenging as it is to top this,
Right.
I'm optimistic by people like you, people like Haley, untapped topics, untapped personalities,
Oh yeah.
giving actionable advice to people. And that's
Yeah.
it. Like I think that will win in the long run.
Like I said in my article, I don't think that crowd had too many wallflowers in it. You had people that were willing to speak up. Um,
Yeah.
I was lucky to sit next to Irina and Denise. They're from the Minneapolis Heart Institute. And
hmm
they were super cool to me, and we sat in the front row the whole time for all those panels, and I learned a lot from them, and then talking to them at after parties. I mean, they're the people that, much like a lot of those coordinators that were out there that are doing that difficult work, so that's what I want to hear from, or those are the people I want to hear from. But it was great, hearing from Mitch Hilby and,
Batman.
yeah, I mean, he was everywhere, and,
Did a
but
pod
other,
with him too.
and there's a lot, not just content, not writing. Content isn't just writing, obviously. I mean, I look at people like Ross Jackson, who creates tons of videos, and
Mhm.
posts them on LinkedIn,
And he gave everyone
and
that book.
yeah,
The
gave everybody his second book. I have an interview coming up with Ross, but that's content creation. That's also, stuff that you can provide valuable information to your audience. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure we could talk through
We
a bunch of
have
that.
there's so much potential for this. We just need more days and more time.
Yeah,
You
more
can't put
people. Yeah,
everything in
yeah,
one day.
right. Yeah,
But
that's what
thank you,
everybody
Dan.
said.
We
Need more
appreciate
time.
it, man. We appreciate you coming on, and I'm happy to do some collabs with Clinical Leader over this next year and leading up to 2025 SOS.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Everybody go connect with Dan right now. His LinkedIn is underneath. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Go check out Clinical Leader too. Bye bye.